Ever tried growing an avocado from that pit sitting on your kitchen windowsill, only to end up with a leggy, fruitless tree that eventually just gives up on you? You are definitely not alone. But here is the thing. You absolutely can grow avocados in containers and actually get fruit, real, creamy, homegrown avocados. In this video, I am going to walk you through the entire process from choosing the right variety to harvesting your own avocados right at home. Plus, stick around to the end, where I will show you my favorite trick for ripening avocados perfectly every single time. Let's get into it. Avocados are one of those crops that people assume you need a big backyard orchard to grow successfully. But the truth is, with the right approach, container growing actually works beautifully, and in some ways it is even better than growing in the ground. You get total control over the soil. You can move the tree to chase the sun or escape the frost. And you can grow varieties specifically bred to stay compact and productive. So let me show you exactly how to make this work. The first thing we need to talk about is variety selection, because this is where most people go wrong right from the start. When you grow an avocado from a grocery store pit, you are growing a seed-grown tree from a full-sized variety. That tree wants to become 30 to 40 feet tall. It is not going to fruit for 7 to 15 years if it ever fruits at all, and it is just not suited for container life. So we need to think differently here. What you want are dwarf or semi-dwarf varieties that have been grafted onto rootstocks specifically selected for compact growth. These trees are bred to stay manageable, usually 8 to 10 feet tall, and they will start producing fruit in just 2 to 3 years. Some of my favorites for container growing are Wurtz, which is also called Little Cotto, and that one is a true dwarf that stays around 8 to 10 feet even without heavy pruning. There is also Lamb Hass, which is a semi-dwarf with that rich, creamy Hass flavor everyone loves. Holiday is another fantastic choice, naturally compact with excellent fruit. And if you are in a cooler climate, Mexicola is incredibly cold-hardy, handling temperatures down to around 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Now here is something important to understand. Avocados come in two flowering types called Type A and Type B. Type A flowers open as female in the morning and male in the afternoon. Type B does the opposite. For the best fruit set, you ideally want one of each type so they can cross-pollinate. But do not let that stop you if you only have room for one tree. Many varieties will self-pollinate to some degree, especially if you have other avocado trees in your neighborhood or you are willing to hand-pollinate. We will talk more about that in a bit. Now that we know what to plant, let us talk about the container we are putting it in. This is really important because avocados have a unique root system. They are shallow-rooted compared to many fruit trees, but they spread out quite a bit horizontally. They also absolutely hate sitting in waterlogged soil. Root rot is the #1 killer of container avocados, hands down. So what does that mean for container selection? You want something wide rather than tall and deep. A 20-inch diameter pot is a good starting size for a young grafted tree, and you will eventually move up to something in the 24 to 36-inch range as it matures. I personally love half wine barrels for mature avocado trees. They are wide, they look great, and they give those roots plenty of room to spread. Whatever container you choose, drainage is absolutely critical. Make sure you have multiple drainage holes in the bottom. If your pot only has one small hole, drill a few more. I am not exaggerating when I say this is life or death for your avocado tree. For soil, you want something that drains extremely well, but still holds some moisture and nutrients. A high-quality potting mix designed for containers is your base, but I like to amend it with about 20 to 30% perlite or pumice to really open up that drainage. You can also mix in some coarse sand. The goal is a mix that water flows through freely. When you water your avocado, You should see water coming out the drainage holes within just a few seconds. If it pools on top or drains slowly, your mix is too heavy. One more thing on containers. Terracotta and unglazed ceramic pots breathe well and help prevent overwatering, but they dry out faster and are heavy to move. Plastic and resin pots retain moisture longer and are lighter, but you need to be more careful about overwatering. Pick what works for your situation. Just make sure that drainage is there. All right, let us get this tree in the ground, or in the pot, I should say. When you receive your grafted avocado tree from the nursery, take a look at the root ball. If it is root-bound with roots circling around the outside, gently tease them apart with your fingers. You want those roots to grow outward into their new home, not keep circling. Fill your container about 1/3 full with your prepared potting mix. Set your tree in and check the height. Here's something really important. You want the graft union, that bulge or scar where the fruiting variety was grafted onto the rootstock, to sit about 2 to 3 inches above the soil line, and the root flare, where the trunk begins to widen into roots, should be right at or just slightly above soil level. Never bury the trunk. Avocados are very sensitive to trunk rot. Once you have the height right, fill in around the root ball with your mix, firming it gently as you go to eliminate air pockets. Do not pack it down hard, just firm. Water it in thoroughly until you see water flowing from the drainage holes. The soil will likely settle after this first watering, so add a bit more mix if needed to bring it back up to the right level. Now that your tree is planted, where do you put it? Avocados are tropical and subtropical plants. They come from Central America and Mexico, where they get abundant sunshine, warm temperatures, and distinct wet and dry seasons. So we need to think about recreating those conditions as best we can. Full sun is ideal, at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. More is better. A south-facing patio, deck, or spot in your yard that gets sun most of the day is perfect. If you are growing indoors, a large south-facing window works, but honestly, most indoor situations just do not provide enough light for good fruit production. You might keep the tree alive, but getting a harvest usually requires supplemental grow lights or moving the tree outdoors during the warm months. Temperature is the other big consideration. Most avocado varieties are comfortable between 60 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. They can handle short dips into the low 30s for some varieties, but extended freezes will damage or kill them. This is where container growing really shines, right? If frost is coming, you just wheel that tree into the garage or a protected area for the night. Let us talk about watering and feeding, because this is where the real day-to-day care comes in. Watering avocados in containers is honestly a bit of an art. They need consistent moisture, but cannot tolerate soggy roots. The goal is evenly moist soil that dries out slightly between waterings. Here is how I check. Stick your finger into the soil about 2 inches deep. If it feels dry at that depth, it is time to water. If it still feels moist, wait another day or two. When you do water, water deeply. You want to soak the entire root ball until water runs out the drainage holes. Then let it drain completely. Never let your container sit in a saucer of standing water. That is a recipe for root rot. In the heat of summer, you might be watering every 2 to 3 days. In cooler weather or winter, maybe once a week or even less. The key is paying attention to that soil moisture, not watering on a set schedule. For feeding, avocados are moderate feeders. I like to use a balanced organic fertilizer formulated for citrus and avocado trees. Look for something with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, plus micronutrients like zinc and iron, which avocados really appreciate. Apply according to the package directions, typically every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season, from spring through early fall. Back off on fertilizing in winter when the tree is not actively growing. One thing I have learned is that avocados can be sensitive to salt buildup in containers. Every few months, I like to do a deep flush where I water very heavily, letting lots of water run through the pot to wash out accumulated salts. Your tree will thank you for it. By the way, if you are finding this helpful so far, take a second to subscribe so you do not miss future videos like this one. All right, let us keep going. Now, let us talk about pruning, and this is actually really important for container avocados. Remember, even dwarf varieties want to become 8 to 10 feet tall. In a container, you probably want to keep it more in the 6 to 8 foot range, maybe even smaller depending on your space. Pruning is how we make that happen. The best time to prune is in late winter or early spring, just before the new growth flush. But you can do light shaping and maintenance pruning throughout the growing season too. When your tree is young, focus on developing a strong, balanced structure. You want 3 to 5 main branches emerging from the trunk at different heights, spaced around the tree. This gives you a nice open canopy that lets light and air into the center. As the tree grows, keep removing any branches that are crossing or rubbing against each other. Take out any dead or damaged wood whenever you see it. And do not be afraid to head back the top of the tree to control height. When you cut the top, the tree responds by pushing out more lateral branches, which actually gives you more fruiting wood. Here is a pro tip I have learned. Avocados. Fruit on new growth, so the more branching you encourage through pruning, the more potential fruiting sites you create. A compact, bushy tree will actually produce more fruit than a tall, lanky one with just a few branches. I pinch back the tips of new growth once they have put on about 6 to 8 inches. This encourages branching without stressing the tree. Let me talk about some common problems you might run into and how to handle them. Honestly, container avocados are pretty trouble-free if you get the watering and drainage right. But there are a few things to watch for. First, leaf tip burn. If you see the tips and edges of the leaves turning brown and crispy, this is almost always a salt issue. It could be from fertilizer buildup, hard water, or both. The fix is to flush the soil thoroughly with lots of clean water and maybe back off on the fertilizer a bit. If you have particularly hard water, consider using filtered or rainwater. Second, yellowing leaves. If older leaves are turning yellow and dropping, this is often a nitrogen deficiency. Time to feed your tree. But if younger leaves are turning yellow while the veins stay green, that is usually an iron deficiency, which is common in alkaline soils. An iron supplement or acidifying fertilizer can help. Third, drooping or wilting leaves even when the soil is moist. This is the scary one because it usually means root rot has set in. The roots are damaged and cannot take up water even though it is there. If you catch it early, you might save the tree by unpotting it, trimming away any brown or mushy roots, and replanting in fresh, fast-draining mix in a clean container. But honestly, prevention is the best medicine here. Get that drainage right from the start. Fourth, no fruit. If your tree is healthy and growing but not producing, it is usually one of 3 things. The tree is too young. Give grafted trees at least 2 to 3 years. It is not getting enough light. Avocados need that full sun. Or there is a pollination issue, which brings us to our next topic. Pollination is where a lot of container growers get stuck. Like I mentioned earlier, avocados have those type A and type B flowers, and they really do best with a partner for cross-pollination. If you have room for 2 trees, get one of each type. Wurtz and lamb Hass make a great pair since Wurtz is type A and lamb Hass is type B. But if you only have one tree, do not lose hope. On warm days when both flower types are open, you can hand pollinate by taking a small paintbrush and gently moving pollen from flower to flower. Do this in the late morning when flowers are most receptive. Some varieties, especially Wurtz, are also reasonably good at self-pollinating. And if your neighbors have avocado trees, bees might be doing the work for you without you even knowing. Now for the moment we have all been waiting for. Harvesting your homegrown avocados. Here is something that surprises a lot of people. Avocados do not ripen on the tree. They mature on the tree, but they stay hard. Ripening only happens after you pick them. So how do you know when they are ready to harvest? The easiest way is to pick one and wait. Once avocados reach maturity, usually 6 to 18 months after flowering, depending on the variety, pick one fruit and leave it on your counter for a week or two. If it ripens normally and tastes good, the rest of the crop is ready. If it shrivels or stays rubbery, they need more time on the tree. The beautiful thing is, mature avocados can hang on the tree for months, so the tree becomes like a living refrigerator. Just pick them as you need them. Now for that bonus tip I promised you at the beginning, my favorite trick for ripening avocados perfectly. Once you pick your avocados, you want to ripen them at room temperature. But here's the thing. You can speed it up or slow it down, depending on what you need. To speed up ripening, place your avocados in a paper bag with a banana or an apple. Those fruits release ethylene gas, which triggers faster ripening. Check daily because they can go from perfect to overripe quickly. To slow down ripening, keep them in the refrigerator. Cold temperatures dramatically slow the process. So if you have a big harvest and cannot use them all at once, refrigerate the ones you want to save and leave out the ones you want to eat soon. Once they are perfectly ripe, they will keep in the fridge for another 3 to 5 days. This way, you always have a ripe avocado ready when you want one. So that is everything you need to know to grow avocados in containers and actually get a harvest. If this video helped you out, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you do not miss future growing guides. And if you have any questions or you are already growing avocados and have tips to share, drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck with your avocado harvest.